Basically, we've got the Nasdaq on the left, the tech industry earnings play of the day, which is NVDA. On NVIDIA, it's managed to produce a channel where effectively we've managed to spike out of the bottom of that channel and consolidate to the point where we've managed to take everything inside of that channel and nearly double it. Basically, just past a 161 to an untested point all the way down here. The Nasdaq itself is a triangle that's just leaving the tip, essentially common to retest the trends as we break them. Of course, we're in a downtrend and the trend isn't too far away. Imbalance is the next major report. We do have ability to mark that.
But NVIDIA is the only one we're waiting for, right?
Yeah, let me double check that. But today we have things like HP we can watch, HPQ. They first come out. I don't think they're gonna move the market or nothing, but ultimately break of that trend.
Yeah, this by far has been the fastest day I've had this week or last couple of weeks. It's just whizzed right by.
Yeah, yeah. Last week was the fastest week for me as well for some reason. NVIDIA just hit its 61% retracement as well as its 161. But yeah, these are the companies today.
a silly one. Nothing else really matters.
Yeah.
It's kind of strange, they're not with the other big players like Amazon and Google and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, the Nasdaq isn't really feeling any of the moves so far, which is fine because it's in the tip of a triangle, getting ready for the uh, hour. NVDA is approaching a 188.200 on a third consecutive high. Many B points have been left untested on NVIDIA. This right here is very similar to the movement that we had in here. Because the components were that it came from a relatively large spike, right? Like this one, where it had a little bit of a consolidation before the spike, like this one. Very intriguing. The heavier volatility area here amounted to a pretty decent run. It almost amounted to the 188.200. So that would be like the Nasdaq going to this level. Funny enough, where it would be right now isn't quite exactly that level, but a little bit less. A little bit more than the 161 though. So like that B point. interesting how NVIDIA is like smack dab at 500 for the earnings. Oh yeah, that's interesting that 15K is right up at the B point, the first B levels that otherwise get people's knickers in a twist, and ultimately it doesn't do too much when it initially meets levels because people are really opinionative on what it has to do on these levels, and what it uses nothing. So like, doesn't matter what direction you go, you're just wrong. It doesn't move. And I think it's very typical for the analysts of the world to convince people to trade on whole numbers because they don't even know what a real indication looks like. That's my 2 cents on that. Because why use a round number? What about that round number indicates bullish or bearish bias? But it makes people feel emotional, I guess, because it's like they like to see round numbers. But if you're basically in an area or in an event where you have no idea how to deal with any of the variables or no idea what to even look for, you're gonna go to the things that you understand. I mean that's what people will do there. That's simple, and they understand whole numbers, and the market really doesn't care. My 2 cents on that. And I can see why. I can see that it's offended. It doesn't like like people to profit off of trading on those whole numbers. That's why it chills there for so long, grinds them out till they're gone. It won't leave. Saw it at numbers like 10,000, past 15,000.
go see for the next hour. Jeez.
It very well could, yeah. Well, exiting the triangle is the next event. It's
Yeah.
going to have to happen before the imbalance.
Is it cold back east right now, John, or what?
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah, it's
got.
gonna be like a high of 14 here today.
Oh
Kind of
wow.
cloudy. Yeah, we get these, and then yeah, it's gonna be like high of 5 or 6 for the next week or so. It's gonna be okay. Kind of freezing overnight, but it's expected, I guess. It's November.
Yeah.
Damn near December. Should be colder.
Yep.
Do you put any lights up around your place at all?
Oh no,
Christmas?
not yet. I will though. I got a few. Haven't done them here
Yeah.
yet though. So, but
Yeah, I put them around our tree out front.
true. True. Yeah, it's good to do before it starts snowing, I guess.
Yeah, you want to do it when the weather's half decent rather than freeze your ass off trying to put lights up, eh?
Yeah, yeah. We made roughly the same spike out of both sides of the triangle too, which is pretty normal.
So guys, how we doing?
Hey, oh,
Pretty good, man. Sure.
Not bad. What's the current situation then?
we're at the tip of the triangle. There's NVDA earnings at the end of the day. We've got NVIDIA here on the right, Nasdaq on the left. Big triangle. Still lots of time left. Basically, it's 20 minutes after the close that NVIDIA will release. We can see that NVIDIA's just jumped above its B points here, and essentially we're hovering around at exactly 500.
You're thinking about hitting those B points up above once we exit the triangle, or it could be, well, yeah, should I say exit the triangle? Yeah.
Yeah, the Nasdaq, it's gonna have to leave the triangle before the imbalance, so that's the next major event here. basically just tapping that green zone. The high of the node, everything past this point has been wicks and spikes since we started this consolidation. Back at that same POC. Could be interested in still making that same spike out of the bottom. It's not like it has much time left with the tip, but while it does have the tip to return to, it can return to it, and pass it becomes just a level. POC is going to be hard to change. After all, it took that much consolidation to make this one. interesting that we're back at that flat top phenomenon again, where basically we doubled the entirety of the pattern last time that we did that. More than double our way. It's like NVDA is trying to push out a fifth wave, where that hitting the 188-200 could be a squeeze though, because the Nasdaq isn't supportive of it being positioned the same way NVIDIA is.
NVIDIA seems to be moving up the same way we're moving up, though.
Yep. Overall, yep. We're at the red yellow line and inside of the green zone. Any long trades that were taken since the dump in the morning effectively at a profit.
Yeah, it just came off a 188, 200 short term.
Yeah, a little bit of a trouble with the break of the trend would be normal around here as well.
Yeah, I have
Grinding
3
the green
points.
zone.
Yep.
I'm honestly surprised there's not more of a node here, you know. You know what's interesting about this is that the 200 and 188 is suggestive of the red zone being the green zone at the 100. And doubling that move to the upside would put a triangle on the bottom of the consolidation, a triangle on the top of equal size. So it is intriguing.
I looked at the ATR and I thought it was around 15. I was looking at the 5 minute instead of 1 minute.
Oh yeah.
Because it seemed like it was slow. It should be around 5 or something. Or 30.
Hmm.
So.
It'll definitely increase, like 20 or something.
Yeah.
What's funny about this level that it can't spend more time at the green zone without breaking the red yellow line. The change is closer than one would believe. kind of like reminding me of testing the waters, seeing if anybody's going to chase it, kind of thing. Still could lead to another retest before the balance.
Hey John,
Hey.
do you remember when I told you about that friend who bought that software? Basically, went to tell him to buy and sell.
Mm-hmm.
Remember me mentioning that? He's completely blown his account.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? It's completely,
Yeah, some
basically
people you
blown
just
his
get really
account.
convinced that they know what they're doing, and there's no stopping them.
Yeah, 100%. You think he took it from around 200, well, this is pounds, from £200 to around 1600, I think. So it's
Mm-hmm.
pretty good. He did pretty well, and then he lost 1400 in a day. Don't know where his stop was or what happened to him, but got screwed.
Heavy size. Just screams
Yeah,
heavy size.
exactly. Yeah, it does.
Because that's not very much money. You can make that in minutes, you know?
Yeah,
But
true.
depending on the size. And size what got him up to 1600 will bring him down to like negative numbers.
Yeah, I'm not sure why he did it, considering it's such a small account. You know, I don't know why he'd even do that in the first place.
It's probably the money that drives him. It's not understanding actually
Yeah,
how the market
yeah.
works. That's most people's downfall.
Thing is, though, is when they find out how the market works, it might be for that month, and the thing is that month turned into a day, where yesterday is nothing like today. Today is nothing like tomorrow, and it used to be every month we would get a change where you'd find a pattern like an ascending triangle used like 30, 40 times easily throughout the month, like large ones, and now it's like it'll change. So it requires us to adapt a lot more, and I like that because you get paid more to trade a more volatile market.
He didn't. He never trades. He never traded Nasdaq though. He traded currencies, forex.
Yep.
I mean, I don't think there's dramatic differences. I just don't think it's quite as predictable. You know.
Well, there's a lot of things that can happen to a currency at
Of course.
economic news.
Hey, I gotta take off here, John, but I appreciate you, my man.
Yeah, man.
Yep.
Take
Thanks
it
for that,
easy.
Thank you.
man. Take it
Yeah,
easy,
man.
dude.
Have a good one. Later.
John, is there another like indice that you can trade that pays more than this?
No, not like, what do you mean per point, or like?
Yeah, per point.
Well,
Yeah.
the points are different. Like, for instance, on SPY you're not going to get as much, but it's worth more, kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
But I don't think you can get as much for your time out of any other index than the
Because I
Nasdaq.
mean, the volatility that we have on the Nasdaq is just incredible.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
KSP is not too bad when it comes to volatility, but obviously nowhere near as big.
Yeah.
Sometimes find the movement on the S&P 500 a little bit sloppy, though it can be for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 188-200 of this move puts us down to the POC.
Yeah, the short-term one.
Yeah.
That's okay. Did a little bit of a grind on the green zone. I think we'll be back at it in no time.
think you might be unmuted, John.
Oh yeah, I was just grabbing this picture. So I was looking at an analysis yesterday. So basically, we have a, this is how yesterday ended. We have watch out for the green zone above to lead back to the 261s, and essentially stop everyone out at the 261s just to take their position, and that to be the high. And of course, that was, at the end of the day yesterday. That was the imbalance. That was the close. Just like we have the imbalance and we have the earnings report today. And effectively, that high was right over here with absolute precision. So we can see that just as I posted, the high as I intended it to be, the green zone above to come back to the 261s. And I marked the 261s levels in this area. It was a gold bar, and that was the green zone above it, and its job was to come back down, and it never saw a higher high. That was the high. Their objective was to make the market move exactly the way it was supposed to, and it did it exactly the way it should. And like I said before, that's not because I've ever seen it line up exactly like that before, but because that was the right way for the market to move at that time. And at the end of the day, I find it intriguing that time they saved for a point where most people can't be on for it, like middle of the night. And then, no ordinary individuals trade at those times. So who's it good for? The people that can trade after hours, the people that trade derivatives. And then you can see that the market opened at a low from that high. And then effectively, what did we do? From that point that it opened, it came back, literally, to test anybody that caught a short trade since the open, because it doesn't want them in. So at the end of the day, they've made it very difficult for people to catch the long trade and catch the short trade. They want to chop them out. Everybody's pretty much right where they started the day. The open was right here. And, the entire day, everybody gets to see a big dump, and then they get to see the dump come back on them if they tried to be part of it. But, it's like, who's shorting all the way down here? At the end of the day, that was a clear reversal point. And why would this be good enough for somebody? I'm like, ew, no? Right? Like, that's the idea. I think that's ew, 100% comparison to this, gold. And I also did a little video on it too, right? As I was talking about it, I explained the value of getting to this level and how I found it and what it meant to come back, and why I thought that it was necessary to understand it that way. And that's how the day began, off of that high. It's just another day. I've literally forgot, how many targets I've taken off again, and I forgot how many days I've said how many days I've taken off how many targets. I can't remember. I can't remember how many targets I take off a day over 50. I don't know. How many hundreds of points every day? Over 300 points every single day at the minimum. All the targets on NVDA are hitting now. And I'm just over the moon with every single event that's ever happened. And, like past year, we've been doing really well. Every single event. Absolute clarity when it comes to how to position yourself. Not like it's easy, but it takes work. And I can tell today was not a day where they're trying to offer the best points for people to be exposed for this event. They expected you to already be in. The best way to be in is to be in from the low, long, not from anywhere this week or last week, but the week before that, and then short from this high. This was the hedge point. Protected for the earnings, to be protected for the overnight session, be protected against the fact that we're closer to the next big dip than we are making more of this run.
What's your opinion for the inbounds there, John?
Pretty neutral. Nothing signal. And that's funny because like when like the open, I felt the same way. I like if I find an indication, I talk about it. I don't keep it to myself. There's no indication. I say nothing. Like this prolonged period of time in the triangle, it's been kind of brutal. But it doesn't want people to be exposed for the earnings, and almost certainly everybody that's exposed from inside of this area is likely to lose their position. Doesn't matter if you're long or short. If you've traded a position today, it's in danger of being wiped out on the report. You know who's safe is the people that went off the green zone. That's an interesting one. That trade was only necessary, taking that green zone, if it was a hedge. And I'm like, well, the market has moved in favor of those that have been holding a core long and decided to hedge short right there. And I think the people with the most amount of money in the entire world did that. So that's what I find remarkable. They have the power to move the market and they chose to use my plan. What's interesting, profound. Plan that wasn't created any other day because I had to see it repeated 20 million times before I could find certainty in it. But because I made the plan, I invented that idea, these areas are over 2 years old. And I'm like, who has them? People with all the money. Not the individuals. Not the work of the individuals, because there's not one single strategy that I can find out in the world that would fall in line with the absolute accuracy of this level, amounting to the end of a run that I'm currently making a video on how to catch the very beginning of this entire run right here. But we'll see. Video is extraordinary. It's like unparalleled. Not a second do I say anything that's out of line with the absolute plan that it followed the entire time that it existed, and the time that it took to trade, the time that it moved anywhere, it was within the plan's ramifications. Watch the green zone getting hit, like I said. Shortly we would be back there. We are there. At the end of the day, this is the green zone. Everything that was sold off beyond it has been bought back up. We are back at it as swiftly as we left it, pretty much. But the way that I see it is it's like a racetrack where, you know, on a racetrack, if you make a wrong turn, you end up off the track, you could blow up and die, right? And you know how they have the person next to them that's telling them, you know, you got a right turn coming up, you got a left turn coming up, you ever not listen to them? Like I'm like, well, they clearly have a map to the thing, and I'm like, people have an idea that they want to go on off the rails, essentially is what you could look at it like. And it's natural to do that. What it takes is discipline to follow the rules and your own accountability. Not because I'll fire you from your job if you don't follow my rules, but it's on you to follow the rules, and they're presented to you. And it's very, very clear that it's very, very tough for even people that have much discipline to follow simple rules. It's very, very interesting because that's all it takes, really. And the thing is the rules change, and can you change with them? That's the number one thing. Because if you can, then that's fine. If you want it to be one cookie cutter way the entire time, and you like clock in and clock out, and you work from 9:30 to 4, and when you're done, you should probably get a job. That's not what this is. So at the end of the day, this is something that you have to be dedicated to. When you're in a position, it doesn't sleep, and if that is your account, then that is your bread and butter. This is exactly what you have to be doing, and managing your efforts and opportunities, and mitigating the risk every breathing moment that you have a position. You're holding yourself accountable to it. I mean, that severity and seriousness looks like it would be news to a lot of people that are just in the investment business, because they don't seem to take it that seriously. Interesting. But I think it's very important, because when I picture a successful investor, I picture like Mr. Burns, somebody very, 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 very serious. Serious. All about serious severity. You intend to do everything because you understand how to do it, because that's the right way to do it, because you know what you're doing. And that's power. That's the only way that I can sleep well at night, is if that's the case. You can give me $10 million. If I don't know how I've made it, it's worthless to me. Because what if somebody takes it from you? What are you worth? You're worth nothing. So that's the idea. At the end of the day, what is it worth? Did you come into this business to get lucky? Because you'll get eaten alive by people that aren't lucky, but people that intend on exactly being able to catch the highs, and exactly being able to catch the lows, and everything else in between. Whereas some people are still on that's impossible. Where how many days do you have to see it? If you look in the chat, honestly, go back and find a day where it's not good. Go back and find a day where we didn't have like countless profit targets throughout the entire day. I've got every day recorded, and I'm proud of every day. So and it's like, find a day where you cannot find a post about how to accurately be positioned for the most amount of movement for that day over the past 3 years. We could go down that road too. Like, if there's not a post where you can find yourself in a position that I told you to hold to be profitable through this period of time, through any period of time, I'd be very surprised, because I know I have one. I know I could say, well, why weren't you in on this trade where I said to get in from this bottom and hold it all the way to the target? But instead you wanted to get in halfway through it and you settled for less. But instead of waiting for the next trade, because it always happened, there was always a big trade down the line that you could have went for, but instead you settled for less. And I mean, like, whose plan was that, right? Because I think that the smart thing to do would be get me more involved with it, like to ask more questions. If you're uncertain, there's no need to take action. Like, get the certainty, like that's basically the key, and I was always taught when I was a kid to ask questions a lot, and it does help 100%. But if you understand, then no need to answer or ask questions, right? But if it is clear, then it should be captured. And like I like to retain that constant understanding, no matter what the environment. There's no environment that is bad for me or deters me from the situation or makes me not want to learn about it or be interested in it or whatsoever. I might not want to trade it, sure, but doesn't take any energy from me to spend 9:30 to 4. I'll go 2 days in a row. So that's like, because if that's what it takes, then that's what it takes, right? Because there's either you do it or you don't, and if it takes something, then you better give it. That's what I've come to understand, and because what it has to offer is worth more than anything I've ever been able to acquire. So I'm like, not only in financial terms, but in in an intellectual value, and the rewards of that, being able to discover something that I know is mathematically sound phenomenon, like that high from yesterday, for instance. Like, I would say less than 1,000 people in the world would have the same analysis, probably less than 100. So I really like that, and for it to be so accurate, so consistent for so long, for such a long period of time, where I'm like, I can show you exactly these moves. Can you fit yourself among them though? Do you have the patience to wait for the right point, and the discipline to continue holding where I say to? Because when you give it up, you make it harder for yourself, and everybody does that because they're happy with $3,000. They're happy with $2,000. That's not the trade. The trade is worth more. And when you give that up to fight for something that you're satisfied with, you're not doing it correctly. That's the interesting part, because the correct way to do it is to fulfill your trade at the target that you set out, because that's the right way to do it. And what are you supposed to do if you cut it early? Like, it's just going to get to you, like, let's say 1,000 times later. Let's say you live to be 1,000,000 years old and you've done it so many times. I mean, at what point are you going to say, hey, when do I deserve the rest of my trade? It's interesting. Because what's keeping you from it? The fact that you want money? That makes no sense. So you're going to give up your trade that's otherwise going to pay you more if you hold it to the target because you're satisfied with less money? Makes no sense. But it's human to do that because they're afraid of losing the little good that they have. And it's very, very common to think that way. It's like, oh, they get ahead a little bit, and just that little bit of aheadness makes them feel like they have security, so they want to lock it in. Little do they know they have the trade that they want, and they've sold it all off, so they barely have anything to benefit from being in on it. That is probably really, really, I don't know anybody that hasn't went through that. And I'm like, it's like the sooner you learn out of these things, and the sooner you take that human aspect out of the equation and replace it with professionalism and discipline, then you're on the right track. And if you accept that it's hard, and you look around and you see everybody else, and they're like, well, they can't do that hard thing. It is too hard for them. And when you complete this task, you've completed something that is too hard for so many people that went to school for so many years and studied to be, in this industry twice your age, sometimes even 3 times your age. And it's like you've beaten them. And that is huge. That is huge. And that, you may not know what that feels like. You may not know what that looks like, but it's worth more than the money. Because it's the ability to make it on a regular basis. Would you rather have 50 grand or the ability to make it every week? That's a lot of people. They would answer the question yes so soon on would you rather have the 50 grand that they wouldn't even hear the rest of it. I mean, like, it'd be typical. But everybody thinks that there's some sort of like like this balance between individuals where everybody's like balancing the markets out, and there's like enough buyers and sellers, and the bears and the bulls are clashing together again. I'm like, no, it's funny that they think that they matter. It's the institutions call the shots all the time. Times like events, they get a small window where they can threaten the institutions, and the institutions better be hedged for those times or they're at incredible risk. So it makes it a pretty easy situation if you focus on hedging for these events, because if you hedge with half or less, so 50% or less than your core, you're just going to be making half when it goes up. I mean, what's a better way to do it? Like, if you truly could go through an environment where it could go both directions, where, let's say for instance, it goes up. Okay, well, you're making half for that moment. Sure, that's still half. It's better than nothing. It's better than losing. Let's say it goes down and goes against your core. Well, you're making money on the hedge. You get to sell that hedge for an undeniable profit and wait for your core to return back to profitability, back to new highs. So which event, when it goes up or down, do you lose money? That's what I want to know. And why are the individuals so concerned with other individuals instead of what the market is clearly presenting for everyone? And that's it's a canvas for people that understand hedging, that moves in favor of those people that have held from previous days, that aren't going to be contained within the next 61% retracement because they're buying halfway up the run. You know, those people have to work more because they're going to get knocked out more all the time. They just keep having to work, and they get tired because the market doesn't offer them as much all the time, and they work so much, and they keep fighting every 11 low zone for what, when you could have just held. And I'm like, well, I see that clearly. I fought my fair share of 11 low zones, and now I don't see the necessity in it when you can already be long and you can already keep it, because I can see that that is the best way for it to be done. And there's no better way in retrospect to having to do it than to do it that way. And I'm like, well, for it not to be the center focus of everyone in this group is insane. I think it's 100% exactly what everyone should be interested in. And ensuring that you know, we don't go the method of the average individual and fold under the pressure of our own profit. You know, and that's basically what I'm getting to with that is, you know, when it becomes profitable, people cut it down to the point where they've barely got anything left for the target. That's the problem. And why is it that cutting it seems to be their solution to reducing the risk instead of hedging it or dragging the stop up? But reduce the position size so much that it can't benefit you anymore, and then watch it get to the target. Because it's not like it doesn't get to the targets. I mean, what targets haven't we got to? So I mean, like, literally, I don't recall any targets that aren't hit right now. We're hitting all of the targets. Every target's been hit as far as I can see. Even on NVDA. Like, the last thing I said was that it was going to come back up to the green zone. And it did. But it's beautiful when you can say that, like, not a lot of people will even go through the difficulty to get your accomplishments. You know what I mean? And it's like, and I think it's because they've never accomplished anything worth going after. If you knew what it was like, you wouldn't fucking stop. No question. So that's all I have to say. But you know, I always had a problem with security. Like, I always had a problem with, like, the idea that wherever I worked, it wasn't secure. It was a problem. The only security I've ever had is when I take it into my own hands and I understand my own capabilities and what my value I can bring to the marketplace is, and exactly what I'm worth, and exactly how I can, you know, essentially produce that value to be able to sustain my life. And essentially, that's the name of the game. And I've always been worried whenever that was in control of anybody else. Whenever I, you know, didn't have that control for myself, and the only thing that got me that control was information, was the change I was willing to make on the information that I had, and that's history. I can't wait to make this. Earnings report happen here. Let's get this analysis updated on NVIDIA. You can see it's almost got like a 5-wave move right there, very clear. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. You want to know what's interesting too is when when I bought into marijuana, they were like I didn't have any certainty that it was going to go up. Like, it was something that could only be done on an industry that there, you know, that was only released once. And when I got into it, it was illegal in Canada. So I didn't You know, nobody knew for sure what was going to happen with that. Nobody even knew if it was going to move. I didn't know if it was going to move. I just knew that I understood that. And I was like sitting over there reading freaking what is that, the intelligent investor and stuff like that. I'm like, you know, trying to do everything everybody can. You know, I was in the position of like completely no information, just like, you know, trying to find some sort of certainty out there in a pool of individuals that have no freaking idea what they're doing. And then you got these spin doctoring people that just seem to like push their analysis out there and they're wrong all the time. And I'm like, how are they doing that, like all the time, just wrong, 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 wrong? And I mean, like, and I look at the chart, it's just got like one thing on it. They haven't put any work into it. And I'm like, well, anytime anybody sees any kind of work, they're like, oh my goodness, they just like close their brains off. And I'm like, yo, come on, people, man. I'm like, it takes 2 seconds to comprehend the few lines that are on the chart because they're literally like, this is one indicator. Look at how many lines it gives. I mean, like, it could be understood in less than 5 minutes, but people close their mind off to it because they think it's complicated. Who's losing? I mean, it's if everybody did that, wouldn't it be easy for the institutions? Because they're not looking at the information. Why don't you just release some sort of, you know, information on the media that makes everybody excited? They'll take their eyes off the chart most certainly, and like clockwork. They do.
When is this US holiday coming up, by the way? Is it Thanksgiving in the
Thur-
next few days?
yeah, Thursday it is.
Thursday, okay.
So tomorrow's
Is it half day tomorrow? Or
is it a half day tomorrow? It might be.
not quite sure.
Oh, not that I know of. It's
Hmm.
free day.
Mhm.
Okay,
It's just Thursday's a holiday. So
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah, and it's likely it still moves on Thursday, but it's gonna be crap. 'Cause they usually
really crappy.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But the securities do still move, so it's not like it is wise to actually like look at, you know, your positions if you do have them. Just make sure they're not freaking losing money or anything like that. But you know, you don't want to completely, like, it's possible that some movement does happen on those days. It's very unlikely though. But if some, like, if a war begins or something, it's possible. How many wars have began this year? You know, like, come on, anything can happen. It's naive to assume that news cannot happen just because there's a holiday. I'm like, yeah, no, it can definitely happen. But you know, at the end of the day, is it likely? No, and I hope not. You know, I don't want any news to happen. News is not good. At least the news I'm thinking about.
You guys heard about that solar flare storm that could be happening? Apparently, I've heard it all over the US. It's like on the US news a little bit.
What? So the
So I've heard it's not a load of BS, but I've heard that the solar flare storm could be that strong that it could literally wipe out the internet. Sounds a bit bizarre, but it's not very likely, I wouldn't think.
yeah, that'll be tough.
That'd be absolute chaos, wouldn't it?
Yeah, if people couldn't watch their TikTok, man, they'd pick up guns, 100%.
True. Thinking about the market as well. Definitely be problems there.
Yeah,
You probably shot it, wouldn't you, John?
money wouldn't mean anything. The internet went down.
True. That's true. Yeah, you got a point. Yeah, very true.
I think it would be pretty chaotic for sure.
Definitely apocalyptic.
Well, like I say, that's what they got the military for, to press the people when they go crazy. And I've got the oh, it should be 1620. Yeah, right there. 1620 is when the report is.
technical perspective, what are we expecting it to do? Go up? I mean, if
pretty
if we
much.
sort of just overnight, we didn't hear about NVIDIA, more likely go up or go down?
Well, if there was no earnings, I would say down. But if because there is earnings, I actually think that it's going to pop up, and what it pops up will be taken down. And essentially, like I said in the morning, and like I said yesterday, I still think that whatever pop up we get is going to try and convince people to buy at literally the worst price on Nvidia that it's ever had in the history of mankind, the highest price that it's ever had. And people will see that it pops up and they will try and buy into it. And I think that all of that buying will allow the people, the bigger funds, to actually liquidate on those people. And then when it comes down, I think that we've got major B points that are untested here. This is a gap, otherwise known as a vacuum zone. So, not like the way that we came up was very much like a W. And if we fell down, would this not be the B point to an M? So I'm like, and is this not a W altogether? And have we not been making W's inside of our M's lately? Like, there's a lot going on there. Hasn't it also developed into a trend that's managed to double? And having doubled, when we pop up to double it, I think that that could
What
cause
fib are we on right now from
that
that
could
W?
that could shake some things up. The 161.
Oh.
That's
Okay.
that's not the W though. That's the big fib set here. The W is going to be like the 661 or something ridiculous. 461. Because the B point down there, it was never tested, and it just kept going and going and going and going and going. So like these B points down here, they're all brutally untested. Every single one of these highs. So it's got that hype look to it. It doesn't look like it was built on solid groundwork. And as good of a company as it is, they're gonna have some data to work with soon, just like Shopify. They have the Shopify look to them. So they're walking on eggshells right now. So basically, the way that I see it is the market could provide a pop on the earnings when Nvidia goes, and that could offer a hedge. I mean, if you're already hedged, then you're fine to continue holding, but if it comes out to knock the hedge out, we're looking for it again. And if you're in nothing, it's not wise to get a position for the earnings report. I recommend heavily against it.
Yeah, I think I've got like one more trade left in me to pass this fund as well. So I'm just thinking I'll just, be over tonight and then do in the morning.
Exactly. Don't do it this
Yeah.
time.
I
Crappy
mean,
time.
I was thinking something stupid as well. I mean, I've got 5 tries, right? I was like, wait, maybe I could go long on one account and then short on the other, see what happens.
Yeah. No, not a great place for entries when this thing starts jiggling around at 50
100%.
million miles an hour.
Yeah.
Hey, but who knows? Maybe it won't be a hardly move because we've had those too. So
We've had those, haven't we?
yeah. But the Amazon ones, the Google ones, Microsoft ones, they moved.
Which one was Amazon the really big one, or was that Intel? Which one was it?
I can't remember.
It was a huge one, wasn't it? Not long ago. Didn't realise that they had little indicators that said that there's earnings and stuff like that. That's cool. You see the little E.
Mm. I don't know why they just wouldn't say the time itself after market close.
That's true.
Well, after market close too, it should be around 4:05 or something, 4:10.
Yeah, Apple does theirs late too, like 4:30. I think it's good that they do it late because then a lot of the people aren't going to be in the way. We will see the people that have the control be able to exert it when the report releases. So I got some fibs out on the tops and the bottoms. This range. So we could be using the extremes, basically the entire area that we've been consolidating over the past couple of days on NVDA is subject to doubling at the minimum. So
Yeah, it should know in less than a minute.
yep, and that's you got fibs because we know it's doubled here, the 188-200, and it's doubled here, and it's got the 261 down here as well. So those levels are nice to have in prior to the move because they can happen really quickly. It could be at the 261 up here or the 261 down here in a minute. So both of those levels can be felt on the Nasdaq as well. And of course, any stops placed at a profit or a safe place, depending on where. And if you don't have any hedges, they can be taken prior to the report if you feel that that's the way to play it. If you don't have a hedge for a long-term position, it's wise to get one. If you're in from today, it may be different depending on where you're in from. Stop and profit could just be a better call. So instantly consider taking some profit off. And you know, it's honestly looking like gonna smash down. Yeah, that's tough. Smash, smash. The test to the underside of that range is pretty normal, but that's like just don't drag stops in between its ability to do that. Didn't really leave the range too much there. I'll take these short-term fibs off, and we'll take a look at the bigger ones here. You know, because Nasdaq definitely felt it. Of course, any trades that were taken today, it pretty much just wiped out the open. Anybody that took anything from yesterday or the overnight session is still absolutely fine. But what did
We had
it?
that conversation before this happened.
It popped up and then sucked everything right back down.
Exactly what you said it would do.
Yep.
And when you said take some off, that's what I got it. I said, okay, good.
Yep. Exactly.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
Really do. Big time.
Yeah. And now we're hitting a 261 on NVIDIA, so that's bounce territory. Maybe a double bottom off of it. Hitting the VWAP from the underside on the Nasdaq would be good. We're getting towards that, close to it. So we just came back to the 188 on NVIDIA. I wish I could, you know what? I'm gonna change it to the 2-minute. Jeez. So that right there is the fib set. We came all the way down to the 261 and then came all the way back up to the 188.
Went right to the bottom of the volume.
Wow.
Node 2.
It just hit the B point. It just sucked the whole move back up from the 261 to the B point.
Yeah.
Curious to see what happens with this. Because it's pretty, like, they've contained it pretty well now. Like, you know, what is NVIDIA earnings? Just neutral? No. Possible. I wonder what they did, or if it's not even released yet. Sometimes it moves and it's not even released yet. But I'm pretty sure it's released. Might have been positive and still goes down. The initial shock value could get everyone like invested long, and it just destroyed them all. You know, it's like that's the tough part, because they all buy in on the spike. You know what they're like, right? You know, that's what they do.
Can't imagine why you'd ever do that, dude.
Yeah. That gold bar, something we could be like, we could see that again there. That's fine. And honestly, it looks like the entire move to get back to the B point was a 61. So like the move that we had here, it came back up to a 61 on NVIDIA. You can see NVIDIA just like basically exploded right back to that 61% retracement. And the Nasdaq, I mean, we're looking pretty similar, but not quite a 61. The 61's a little bit higher. There's a lot of draw on that gold bar though, so I wouldn't prevent it from getting tested in the event that you drag a stop in its path. It's subject to taking the position from you. We do have a couple B points that are untested up here too, so they're also like really close by. Nothing you can really do about those from this point. But this 61 is effectively the same 61 that what's it called? NVIDIA was using. And the progress that it made from the 50 to the 60, NVIDIA is just catching up now. And all the B points are hit. So now a test of the red yellow line as well, something to really consider. Basically like it broke and needs a retest. The 61's getting a test on NVIDIA. I can see the need to pull back for that. But it is where it started. Effectively returned to the point at which it released the report.
Nice.
Which, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, one thing we can say is that it did impact the Nasdaq, but the report itself didn't keep the direction. Like, I mean, what did we move on NVIDIA? It was 8%. It was a pretty hefty move. I mean, anybody with a stop within the last 8% on NVIDIA would have been knocked out. And for the Nasdaq, it was just merely 100 points, really. So Like it was 100 points exactly. And I mean, what did it do? It came back for people that caught the low of today. I mean, that's not even a good position. So I'm like, all right, we'll see. Because they've replaced that low with a low that, you know, one could say few people have caught. I mean, the volume in here is just incredibly minimal. But like I said, it came back down to test that red yellow line. I still wouldn't obstruct it from hitting that gold bar down below. Like, quote unquote, spring could form. Because, I mean, what is this? A spike? Of course it's a spike. It's a huge spike. Did it not come back as quickly as it left it? And yeah, sure. But when we make a spike, you know, is it effective to go here? Or do we like spikes like this? Because I'm like, this actually is not something that I'm incredibly attracted to. I'd much rather it be like this. Because think about it, and it's only for buying. Only for buying. Like, I'm not saying that this is attractive for long and this is attractive for short. I'm saying I'm comparing buying here and buying here. I mean, like, this is no go for me. Yeah, sorry. But essentially, this means you're in a trend. It's got a channel, and you've made a spike at its extreme. It threatens the break of the entire trend. And in this case, I think that we're more like up, 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 and we spike down. You know, it's not necessarily providing value on the spike to go higher as much as if it was down and it spiked to end the trend, making it difficult for anyone that wanted the trend break here, essentially. Yeah, it doesn't seem like it yet, but I think that we're very close to the next major decline. And it could have to do with the trend that was created as a result of this new low. Like unlike
You know, we had like a double bottom here. You think it's gonna go lower?
Not necessarily immediately, but
Okay.
but I think that it made this trend, and I think it's got a lot of time with that trend. But that trend could take us down hard, is what I'm thinking. Like it goes back even farther too, like the one that goes even farther back. But this one for now, I will be looking at. It's created a trend that we otherwise didn't identify as much as this one, and this one really stands out. And breaking that one that really stands out could scare the crap out of people, basically. But I think that a lot of people will try and find this bullish and buy in the morning. They're going to try and get those people, I think, and then it dumps. That would be very likely. Because they can't trade right now. I don't think they're able to, like, quote unquote get very many people at all. Tomorrow it'll move when everyone can trade. But with that being said, hopefully you guys had a wonderful day. It wasn't too much of a move, and hopefully you have a wonderful night, and I'll catch you guys later.
Sounds good, John. Appreciate it.
Cheers, man.
Yeah,
See you, guys.
cheers. Take it easy. Have a good one.